road today in beautiful Hiwassee, Tennessee, getting ready to work on this train car. We have some rust problems where it's delaminating the metal. So this hinge right here is supposed to be at a perfect 90 degrees, and you can see it broke down in here. This hinge actually holds a floor plate, so we got to cut all this apart, get all that cancerous stuff out, and rebuild it so it actually works right. Stay tuned, follow along. Take it all the way back together, I don't know. We'll take this intersection out here. That way we'll know what we're dealing with. You can see where it bubbles down here, where all the rust is behind it, so we're going to try to come down to the bottom of it. That way we'll have good metal to try to weld back into, hopefully. Opening a can of worms. So inside this can is worms. You gotta get all the worms out. A clean workspace is important. So if that grinder gets away from me and turns around, blows up dust in my eyes, that's not good, right? So all this rusty stuff has to be ground down to shiny metal, so that when we put our new pieces in that we're getting ready to build, that we have something clean to weld to without inclusions and porosity in our welds, so it stays for a long time and holds real tight. So that's what we're working on right now, cutting this out. We gotta cut, excuse me, cut these 3 bolts here out, these screw heads, and get this bracket off of here. We already know we can line it up where it belongs again, and we're gonna stack 2 10 gauges of plate behind there, weld it here, weld it up to the top in there. That way we have a nice strong base and material thick enough so they can drill and tap the holes and reinstall this part the proper way with the right screws. So that's what we're working on now. Alright, so what we're doing now is we're giving ourselves reference lines to where this is going to have to come out, and we have to rebuild the support where it goes back in there. So if we know a reference line of where this thing is positioned, once it belongs in there, we can pull it out and not have to worry about losing track of where it belongs. So that's what we're doing right now, is giving ourselves some indicator layout lines so that we will put it back exactly where it belongs, and everything should line up in theory. I'm triggering this is because the metal behind it is in such bad shape, it just wants to blow through it. So I gotta just deposit a little bit of metal, and then once I have something deposited on there, then I can start building on top of it. You can see the holes it's wanting to burn in. I'm not gonna be able to weld any lower than this because the metal's too bad, but I'll be able to stack that metal on top and blend it in this area here. All right, we have a little bit of a height variance, so I had to take and tack 3 of the sides in and push one side over here. And when I'm welding this back in, I do have a gap, but that's okay, because what I'm doing is I'm shooting this wire in and up underneath that last weld, so it builds up from the inside out, and then the deposit comes up on the top. So that way I got plenty of weld inside of there and kind of behind the material before I grind it smooth when we're done. So I'll trigger all this in, and this is pretty thin metal, so I wouldn't want to run a solid bead on it anyway. So we'll work on this for a while. Okay, we got 2 temporary braces there because that step plate was cracking. So when this engine or this car comes back into the back shop, we'll cut that out and put it back right. And we got this corner pushed back in with our BVA hydraulics clamp or porta power, and we got several layers of new metal put in there so they can re-drill and tap the block that holds the hinge block. So well done.